We were becoming a hardened force, mobile, adaptable, deadly. We had been forged in the flames of war, and as our confidence grew, we began to strike harder at the very heart of the enemy. With the Germans bringing in more troops and armor into Calabria to counter the Allied threat, we began to sabotage their infrastructure. Carlo and I had become a highly effective team. He infiltrating enemy strongholds, darting wasp-like between targets to plant explosives, while I covered him from afar, a deadly sentinel. From my position, I could pick them off one at a time and clear the way for Carlo. His life was in my hands, but our trust was hard-earned and strong. The way was clear, and Carlo prepared to finish the job. The explosives should have triggered. The detonator had failed. Carlo would be caught, and the mission would fail. I had to try a desperate shot. Our hair was singed and our ears rang, but the devastating work was done. That day, we struck a major blow against the Germans' refueling capabilities, slowing their advance into Calabria. We had received word that the Allied fleet in Sicily was preparing to invade the Calabrian coast. Eager to help our allies cross the Strait of Messina, we resolved to learn all we could of the German defenses. I was walking into an enemy stronghold alone. I would have to use every ounce of my experience if I was to walk out again. We knew the Germans had positioned naval cannons along the coast, but now we knew how to use them. If we could capture one, perhaps we could turn it against the German defenses. The enemy had constructed an anti-aircraft bunker along the coast that was preventing the Allies from bombing Axis assets in the region. Horror gripped me as I stared at that document. The Germans had hidden a U-boat in the bay beside the lighthouse. There it lay in wait for the Allied ships, armed with some kind of prototype torpedoes. I had gathered all the intel I could. It was time to get out. The Allied invasion was in danger, but with no way of sending a warning to the Allies, it was up to us to destroy the German defenses. As the day of the Allied invasion approached, the Axis forces dug in. It was as though the end of the war hung at the edge of the horizon. Having lost contact with the Allies after Dante's death, We had no way of warning them. Instead, we focused our efforts on disrupting the German defenses. We had eyes and ears everywhere now as more villages rallied to our cause. It was how we discovered a highly decorated German general had been sent to Calabria to oversee the Axis preparations for the Allied landings. It was an opportunity we could not ignore. The general had taken residence in the same lake house where Matteo had betrayed us all those weeks ago, protected by a squad of elite soldiers. I knew that if a single enemy soldier raised the alarm, the general would try to escape. Rank is no shield against a well-aimed bullet. The general was dead, but I still had to find the plans for the German defense of Calabria and return them to my father. Hitler must have been getting nervous if he'd sent one of his best commanders to counter the Allied threat. Finally, the enemy was starting to understand what it was to live in fear. As I made my escape, a squad of Nazi soldiers arrived. Had my luck finally run out? The plans revealed the Axis forces were preparing a trap for the Allied fleet. With no way of sending word to the Allies in Sicily, we had to find a way to stop the Germans ourselves. If the Allies were to move their fleet safely, we had to disable the naval base. Our plan was crude but daring. Force our way in and destroy the cannon from the inside. There were so few of us left now. We remained resolved to capture an enemy naval cannon and attempt to sink the German destroyer. But first, I had to clear a route for the others. The alarm would draw out the guards. That was the signal to the resistance to fight our way in together. The cannon was ours for as long as I could hold the enemy back. Now, to make use of it. A hit! As that destroyer sank, I moved to disable the cannon for good, starting with the controls. Charges placed within the cannon structure would render it completely inoperable. The lives of my father, my friends. I was responsible for them all. Now I had only to escape. A stolen mass boat was my fate. The German U-boat lay hidden in the bay by the lighthouse where it waited, lurking, unseen, ready to spring its trap on the approaching Allied ships. I had no idea how to stop it or its deadly payload, but I knew I had to try. With the German U-boat hidden in the bay, awaiting the arrival of the Allied fleet, everything we had fought for was in danger of being lost. Unless I could find a way to destroy that submarine. Flak cannons inside of the base would make any full-scale assault of the island impossible. To take them out, I would have to enter the lion's den, and then find a way to destroy that U-boat.
Not so fast, sniper! Got a bullet with your name on it!
The Germans had me surrounded and vastly outnumbered. But when a man fights for their home, their freedom, even against impossible odds, there is always hope. I had become the embodiment of death. Each bullet another revenge for the deaths of those I loved. For the thousands of partisans, villagers, families buried in mass graves. cannons were destroyed. Next, I would have to find a way onto the beach. Plumes of steam rose from the horizon, signaling the Allied fleet's arrival. It was clear they knew nothing of the U-boat that lay in wait for them. The lighthouse towered over me. I felt very small. I knew then I would either return a hero or not return at all. One bullet. One bullet can change the course of a war. It would be the last bullet I ever fired. I had seen enough death to last 100 lifetimes. Why did we fight? We fought so they would not have to, so they would never have to live through the horrors we faced. Now, as my life reaches its end too, I leave my story in the hope that it endures in them, for the honor of those who fought and fell, so that we may always be grateful for what we have, so that we may never forget.